chances are your drug-dealing doctor is probably a criminal whose actions are going to lead to your death. 46,471 people are killed every year in America by drug overdoses of prescription medications prescribed by their doctors. And you know what? A lot of these doctors get kickbacks for this. It's legalized bribery. And what drug companies do is they have this network where they pay people to speak to very small audiences, like 3 people. And a doctor might be paid $1,000 to go speak to 3 people over lunch. Right? So this is bribery disguised as public education. Corporations do this all the time. And so the way it works is these drug companies, they track the number of prescriptions of their brand name drugs that doctors write. And when doctors hit a certain milestone, and this is all explained to them by these young, sexy drug reps who tend to be beautiful women, by the way, who go in and they finesse usually the male doctors, usually what it is, and then they convince them to prescribe their drugs, and they're going to earn, some speaking engagements where they can collect all this money for basically doing nothing. This is legalized bribery. So this is what causes doctors, most of whom are intelligent but highly unethical, by the way. And there are exceptions. I'll talk about the exceptions here in a second. But most of them are just in it for themselves. They don't give a crap about you. You are nothing but a number that they can bill Medicare, Medicaid, or the insurance company. That's it. You don't mean anything to them, for the most part. I know there are exceptions. All right, I'm going to talk about that. There are some good doctors out there, and I want to give them credit. But across the board, for the most part, doctors are total pricks. They've been brainwashed by the drug companies. They're actively engaged in under-the-table bribery, and they're making money hand over fist by prescribing drugs that are killing American people. In fact, the number one cause of death in America is the medical system. It's called iatrogenic deaths, and these are deaths caused by doctors and hospitals and surgeons. And that number, the number of Americans killed each year in America by the healthcare system, so-called, it's really a sick care management system, is, at last calculation, although this is over a decade old, it was 783,000 Americans a year. It's equivalent to a jumbo jet airliner falling out of the sky and crashing into the ground, bursting into flames every single day. Actually, more than once a day. Imagine if there were a jumbo jet airliner falling out of the sky every day. Well, you'd hear about that on the news, wouldn't you? There'd be images, there'd be footage, there'd be screaming victims running from the flames. But because it all happens quietly, silently, one pill at a time, you never hear anything about it. The chemical holocaust continues, and it's called pharmaceutical medicine. And it's not just from pharmaceutical medicine, of course. The 783,000 deaths a year also includes deaths from superbugs caused by the overprescription of antibiotics. An abuse so horrific in the medical system that we are now approaching the end of the era of antibiotics, where a simple scratch on your arm may soon kill you because they have absolutely nothing left to treat it in the medical system. Of course, by the way, those of us who know about natural medicine, we know that we can treat scratches, we can treat superbugs with things like garlic and colloidal silver, medicinal herbs that you can grow in your own garden. There are all kinds of things, ginger, things that you can treat infections with, but the medical system won't touch those because they can't patent them, so they can't profit from them. So they won't even recommend them, and they don't even teach doctors about those things. So a lot of doctors, when they run out of antibiotics, they're just going to be clueless, walking around, what do we do? The patients are dying from superbugs. We're out of medicine. Nothing works. Get some more amoxicillin, blah, blah, blah. And people are dying, but they're making money, so that's all that matters to them. So now, for those who are the exceptions to this rule, I want to give you kudos. I'm talking about the complementary doctors, the complementary medicine, alternative medicine doctors, holistic doctors, and of course, naturopaths. So if you're a doctor and you've gone beyond the brainwashing propaganda of medical school and you've actually learned something about holistic medicine, you've learned about prevention, you work to educate your patients to improve their choices, their lifestyle, so that they prevent disease instead of growing disease, then thumbs up to you. You're the kind of doctor that we need. But you also know that your colleagues are full of crap, right? Because they are making more money than you because they don't take the time to educate patients, do they? They're making more money than you because they're doing the kickbacks for all the prescription drugs hookups with the pharma companies and all the special gifts and travel arrangements and free vacations, right? They're getting all that because they're pushing the drugs that the drug companies want them to push. So they're living a more luxurious lifestyle because they're willing to compromise their ethics. That's called medicine. But you, because you're more holistic and you have more ethics yourself, you're probably making less. But you know what? You're making a bigger difference in the lives of patients. So I commend you for that. If you have gone through, let's say, Dr. Weil's complementary medicine system, and I've known a lot of young MDs who have gone through that program, then I commend you, and I say, good on you. You're doing a great thing. Now, what's my solution to all of this? After all, I don't just like to complain and whine all the time and tell you what's wrong. I like to give you solutions. And I've been around this industry a very long time. I'm known as the Health Ranger. I started naturalnews.com. I run a science lab. I do forensic food analysis, elemental analysis, bringing online an entire organic chemistry section too with some HPLC instrumentation. And I've helped literally millions of people live healthier lives and prevent disease. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that I have for you is to assume from the very moment you start to visit a doctor or make an appointment with a doctor, you should assume from the very first moment that that doctor is full of crap, all right? This is going to save your life. You need to assume they're lying to you, they don't give a crap about you, and they're going to push some drug on you that you don't need. You should assume all of this. If they give you a cancer diagnosis, you should assume that it's total fraud. If they give you lab test results, you should assume that they're making them up, all right? This is a healthy stance to take that may save your life. And why do I say this? Because even though these things are not true the majority of the time, they are true often enough that if you have this skepticism, it can save your life. For example, there was this cancer doctor at the, the Carmanos Cancer Center is that in Michigan? I think it's in Detroit. And this doctor is going to jail now because he was running around giving people false cancer diagnoses so that he could make money treating them for the cancer that they did not have. He made a small fortune by billing Medicare and Medicaid for chemotherapy or radiation or surgery or whatever he was promoting. He made all this money and he was making it all up. So he was using people's bodies and basically poisoning them. This is a chemical assault, right? This is chemical violence against women especially. He was doing this because he could make money off of it. And those women sadly believed this doctor. So they paid for that faith with their own lives and health. They're probably going to get cancer now because chemotherapy causes cancer. Now, if they had gone into that situation with the stance that I am recommending, which is, again, assume your doctor is completely full of crap, then they would not have believed the diagnosis and they would not have been influenced by the fear tactics used by the cancer doctors. The oncologists are the most malicious, evil MFs in the industry. Let me tell you, they are the worst people of all. They will give you a positive diagnosis to scare you into signing on the dotted line and saying yes to chemotherapy even when you don't have cancer, and they know it. They're the scum of the earth, the scum of the medical system. So if you get a positive cancer diagnosis from an oncologist, you should immediately say, you're full of crap, I'm going to go get a second opinion. And if you get a positive diagnosis from a second doctor, you should go get a third opinion. Only if you have three opinions that match up, in my view, should you believe them. And even then, you should run as quickly as you can away from their toxic cancer-causing treatments like chemotherapy, which is based on the chemical weapons of World War I, by the way. They're extremely toxic and they will not help you. Who knows how many people are being killed by chemo? They don't even record that statistic because it's just so large it would freak people out. Probably, right now 46,000 people are being killed by drug overdoses every year. I bet chemotherapy deaths are very close to that same number. I wouldn't be surprised. So the next thing that you can do is educate yourself. Take responsibility for your health. The people who are most easily victimized by the medical system are those who take no responsibility for their own health outcomes. Instead, they transfer that responsibility to their doctor. And by doing so, they surrender power to that doctor and they give their health choices. They give up their health choices and they let their doctor tell them what to do. And many doctors are happy to function in that way. Yeah, we'll give you a chemical. We'll mask that symptom. We'll control your blood pressure. We'll control your cholesterol. But they won't tell you the truth. Hey, maybe you should stop eating trans fats. Maybe you should exercise a little bit instead of sitting on your ass all day watching daytime television. They really need to have some tough love with patients, but a lot of doctors aren't willing to do that. They just rake in the bucks on the prescription drugs and wait for you to come back with another symptom and another disease and another diagnosis. They can write another drug for you. If you want to play that game, you might as well just go jump off a bridge right now, because it's a medical suicide that you are committing. And I assume you don't want to do that. You'd rather stay alive. So don't let doctors catch you or corral you into that system of cycling your disease, where one drug causes another disease, which needs another drug, which causes a third disease, and so on. It's a cycle of death, but it makes them extremely wealthy. And the last thing you can do, or at least one of the last that I have time for here, is just live a healthier lifestyle, make better food choices, educate yourself. Read naturalnews.com. That's where I'm the editor. If you want some straight talk about health, don't get your information from websites like webmd.com. Come on, it's run by pharma. Don't believe the mainstream media. Get your news from an alternative source like alternativenews.com. That's where you're going to get the real truth. If you want to search for disease treatments and cures, go to goodgopher.com, the alternative search engine that's not controlled by corporate interests. Thanks for listening. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger.